Hello GameMakers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in today's episode we finish up with our animations. We can now show actors dying as well as actors gaining XP and levels, and we have a few bug fixes as well, so let's get started. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to explain how and why we are going to do a few things. So we have 3 new animations. We have like a little cloud animation for when someone dies. We have an animation for when someone takes damage or is healed. And we have an animation for after that's been calculated for displaying XP gained and levels gained, that kind of thing. So 3 new animations. The first one is actor death, and that's just a matter of replacing the sprite of the actor, and we have a new state to say, well, this actor's dead, and we remove them from the turn list so they can't have a turn, and we don't draw them anymore. Basically, we don't actually destroy the object because the object is still going to have stats, so we may want to still be able to transfer those stats over to our sheet at the end of the day. So we're still keeping the object for now. We have a new object called obj anim stats. This one here. This is going to do the other 2 animations. The way we are going to draw it is we're going to be drawing it inside the double for loop of obj test. So the same for loop that draws everything else is going to draw that animation as well, mainly to keep the draw order. The simplest way I could find to do that was to just make a new grid which holds instances of obj anim stats, and every time obj test checks a cell, it's going to say, is there an instance of obj anim stats? If there is that object ready to animate? If it is, then run the animation. So that's how and why. So let's get started. I totally forgot to show some changes inside obj actor last episode. I did put them in a comment, but just in case you missed it, this is what we need to have. So we don't need this enumerator anymore in the create event, and we're swapping this for this, although it will work either way because east actor sticks to idle is the same as battle menu dot move anyway. So but just for the sake of clarity, I changed it there. And we're setting the image speed of the actor to 1, just so it has a default speed. Anything else? In the step event in moving, we were no longer using the state to check. We just have a boolean, if you remember, because we're just using states to draw things. And then in this region, again, we're just swapping this state for this boolean. That's all the changes are for really, just changing the state to boolean. And then one other thing that I noticed is I totally forgot inside item stats CSV, all of the spells, well, the fire 1, fire all, ice 1, ice all, their values were positive, and we were adding these values to the HP when we should be taking away. So whenever we want to damage something, we want a negative value. So that's what that's for. So the next thing we're going to do is, as I was explaining, we're going to have a new grid, and we're going to create it in the create event of obj test. So this one here, we're going to do the same thing as we did with node and actor grid. We're just going to create it with a width and height of 1 because we're going to change that when we are setting up the battle. So if we go into the step event of obj test now, and we want to be in the setup battle region, and right here, where we resize the other grids, we're going to resize anim grid as well. For now, the other thing we're going to add inside obj test is, we're going to ignore this one for now. We're going to do actor taking turn, then taking an action, pressed enter after already choosing menu, perform attack spell item. There's just one line to add. So for me it's line 601, and where we create an instance of obj animation, we want to let this instance know what item is being used, and by item I mean, you know, sword, spell, that kind of thing, or consumable. So we just want to know which item is being used, because we're going to use that. We're going to calculate stuff inside obj animation, like damage and stuff. Okay, so now we're going to go into obj animation, where most of the code is going to be. In the create event, we have a new variable it's a new boolean called added XP animation. The easiest way I could find to add an animation for XP and levels was just to have a boolean. I needed to add this new animation when the queue is empty. So this boolean is going to be false, and then when the queue is empty, we're going to check if this is false. Then we're going to set it to true, and we're going to add one final animation, or we're going to play one final animation, which is the XP and levels. Only if it's a player controlled unit, and only if that unit is alive will we play that animation. So that's what this is for. Then if we go into the step event of obj animation, let me just minimize some things here. So we're in take an action, and then if we go into fill queue with lists and arguments, then initialize. We want to set XP gained to 0 so we can track it for this current actor. It's only relevant, like I said, if the actor is player controlled and if they're still alive at the end of their attack, because it's possible to kill yourself as well. So that's one new line there. Then in this region where we're building the main queue of animations, we have a brand new region here. We're still inside the for loop, and we're inside the check to see if there's an actor on the tile. So if there's an actor on the tile, we want to add a number animation and also calculate the stat effect for the actor as well. So we're starting to use our stat arrays that we gave them. Inside this region, there's two new ones. So update XP gained is pretty simple. We're just going to grab the actors level that's being affected right now and +1 to it. We're going to get the current actors level. The reason we +1 to the target actors level is because for our calculation of how much XP the current actor is going to get, it's going to be the target's level minus the current actor's level. So if both levels are equal and we minus them from each other, that's going to give us a 0. We times 10 by 0, the XP is going to be 0. So we need to add 1 to the target level. We're going to have a cap for XP per hit where a minimum is 5. So if you're level 10 and you hit level 1, you get at least 5 experience. If you're level 1 and you hit a level 10, the max you're going to get is 30 experience out of it. And then we're just going to increase XP gained by this new value. This happens for every actor that's damaged or healed. And then, like I said, we're going to add it to the current actor at the end. Then this new region is the meat and bones, really. So all of this. So we pass this variable from the step event of obj test, so we know what item is being used. So we want to check the stat that's affected by this item, which is what this is going to tell us. We also want to know how much are we going to change that stat by. So that's what value is going to tell us. So for example, If we check a sword, the stat affected is 8, which is HP current, and the value affected is -20. So we're going to take 20 away from HP current of whichever actor is affected. Then going to grab the actor from, we're going to grab the instance ID for the actor that's in that cell, and we're going to affect their stats by the value. I've done times 100 because I want it to test the death animations. So normally we just have this, but for testing I'm going to have multiplied by 100. Then, as with every other animation, create a list. We need to create an instance of our new object, obj animstats. I know we haven't made this object yet, we're going to do that afterwards, so just type it for now. And with our new stat object, it's going to have two states. One state is for displaying damage or healing, the other state is for displaying XP and levels, and we need it to know what position it should be in the grid, which is what grid X and grid Y are going to store. And then we're going to add to our new list a new script and our new instance and the value that we want the stat object to be. So the value is going to be either something like how much HP did you lose or gain, or it's going to be how much XP has been gained. That's what value is going to equal. And then we're going to add our list to our animation queue. The other thing we want to check is this actor dead? So if the actor is damaged, they could die, and we want to add another animation on top of that to show that. So if the actor that's being affected, if their HP is less than or equal to 0, then yes, they're dead. So again, make a new list, add to that list a new script, the ID that's affected, and just a second variable that we're not going to use, and then add that list to our animation queue. And that's it for that region. So then if we go into get next action, this has also been updated. So previously within this else statement we just had these lines here, but we also want to check to see if we need to do the XP or level animation. So we're going to have an additional check here first. So that's what these if and else is about. So all we've done is we've enclosed this code here into another else, and then this stuff is new. So let's open this region. Like I said, it's only going to be for units that are player controlled, but because I haven't given any items to my player controlled units, I'm just going to comment out this line for now, but we are going to actually use it inside the game. So as long as added XP animation equals false, we haven't done this bit yet. So we want to check to see if the actor is alive, because it looks silly if there's no actor and you show XP and levels being gained. So make a new stat object. With that stat object, tell it the state that it's going to be. So this one's going to be display XP level. Again, you don't have this enumerator yet. We're going to define that within the object in a minute. And we want to tell the stat object, the grid X and grid Y, that it's going to hold as well. And then we don't even need to use script execute. We're just going to run the animate stat script. Again, it's a new script. You'll see it in a minute. And after this, we're just going to say regardless, we're going to set this boolean to true, so this doesn't run again. Okay, so before we go any further in the step event of this object, it's going to make a lot more sense if we do our new object and scripts first. So make a new object, call it obj anim stats, and in the create event we've got a new enumerator like this. There's only 2 states we're bothered about. Active. So these objects get created before we want the animations to run. So at the very start, when they are created, we're going to tell them they're not active, and then in our script, in our new script, we're going to tell them to be active so that we can run that animation. So that's what this is for. Height. So we want to see a number that moves upwards, and how we're going to do that is we're going to use our draw y value inside obj test and just add the height value for this object to it as well. That's how we're going to draw it moving upwards. Image speed. To begin with, we don't want to animate the object again, so we're going to want to keep an image index of 0, which is what this is going to do, because it won't animate at all. Then in the step event, if active, then we want to animate it. If it's just making the number move upwards, then that's what this is about. This value here will affect how fast it moves upwards. 1 is kind of too fast, 0.1 is too slow, so I just settled for 0.5 as like a middle way value. So this block of code is for displaying the XP and level of our current actor. Value is going to be greater than 0 to begin with, and every step we're going to reduce value by 1. Once value is less than or equal to 0, this is no longer going to run, and that's important because every step we're just resetting the image index to 0 for this instance. That's going to stop the animation playing. What that means is it doesn't matter how much XP the guy has got, that's going to run first, and once all the XP is done and been displayed, then our sprite SPR ISO number anim, this one, then this is going to run like that. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then obj animation is going to go, okay, the animation is done, you know, continue with any more animations, which there won't be any because this is the last one. So we just don't want this to happen before we're ready. That's why we're setting the imaging index to 0 every time. Hopefully that's clear. And then for every step we reduce value by 1, we're going to add 1 to the XP value of current actor. If XP value reaches 100, then we want to level up. So that's what this is about. If it's greater than or equal to 100, reset XP to 0 and increase level by 1. We're also going to have a kind of a mock script called level up. All I've got inside it is a message. It'll say level up. There's no code, but at least we have something there to say, okay, we're going to run this now. What we'll do, we'll just add things, add numbers to stats for this, but that will be in the next episode. Hopefully the next episode will finish the battle, but we'll find out. Okay, so now we've done the obj anim stats, let's do the script for it. So don't forget to assign our blank sprite to this object as well. Okay, so let's look at our new scripts. So scr animate stat, this one here. So we're just passing it the instance ID and a value to display. Again, it makes a number float upwards. Not always though. It's very similar to our other scripts. But you can see here we're telling our obj anim stats that it's now active, ready to run its animation, and we're going to set its image speed to 1, so it actually runs the animation. And then this is the same as the other 3 scripts, so make sure the animation object knows to wait for the animation to end, and the actor animating is this particular instance. We also want to add this instance to our new grid that's stored in obj-test, because obj-test is going to check this grid. It's going to say, okay, is there any instance in this cell? If there is, then does it need to play an animation? That's what that's about. Let's just do the other script as well. SCR actor dies. So we're going to pass it the ID of an instance and a random empty variable that doesn't get used. All it's for is for changing the sprite of the actor to the actor dead sprite. I'll show you that now. So this is the sprite. It's just some random circles that I drew, and this is the effect. Yeah. So back to SCR actor dies. So we're just going to change the sprite of the actor to this. We're going to tell it that it's also dead, which will add this state in a minute. Set the image index to 0, so we run from the start, and the image speed to 1. This is the same as the other scripts. Also, because this actor is now dead, they could still be in the turn list of obj-test. We don't want that to happen, so we want to check to see if this actor is in turn list. If it's not -1, then it is in the list. So if it's not -1, what position is the actor in the list? Delete that position from the list. So that's what that's about. Before we go back into OBJ animation, let's just add that new enum. So here we are. Make sure it goes after last, because when we're adding sprites to our character sprite grid, our grids are as high, sorry, are as wide as the active sprites.last. So when we only want the sprite grid to be this big, not this big. So that's why dead is after last. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's go back into OBJ animation. We've done this. Yeah, so this region now will make more sense. So we're in the region where we wait for actor to finish the animation. Previously we were checking for the sprite index of OBJ node or any instance, whereas we can just actually check the object index to see if it is a node. So we don't have to do that, but it's just made more sense because I was using it here as well. So that's the first change. Then this block here is new. So if our object is animstats, then because in our script, you remember here, animstat, because here we're adding the instance to animgrid. Once the animation has played out, we want to remove it from that same grid. So that's what this is about, this line. And then we want to tell the instance that it's no longer active, just in case anything else is going to play before we're done. So that's what we need to do for cleaning up OBJ animstats. Otherwise, if it's not a node and it's not a stats object, then it's going to be OBJ actor. And rather than just have this line here, we're going to have this stuff as well. Basically, we're checking to see has the actor died. So if they have died, they'll have this sprite. We want to tell this actor their new state is dead and not to have a sprite anymore, just so they don't draw themselves anywhere. So And last thing to do as well is remove this actor from OBJ tests actor grid. The reason we have to do that is because when we check nodes in SCR display action nodes, so where is it? Actors. So here, if actors block what we're trying to do, we're checking to see if there's an instance in our actor grid. So we have to remove any dead actors from it, otherwise they will still block movement. So that's it, that's the new stuff really. We have a new event for OBJ animation. When we destroy it, we also want to get rid of any instances of OBJ anim stats. This is the best place to do it that I found, so we're just going to do it there. So once all the animations for the current actor is done, animation object gets destroyed, and it also gets rid of any instances of OBJ animation stats that are left over. So that's what that's about. While we're dealing with dead actors, let's go back into the step events of OBJ test, and inside in battle setup turn order. So rather than this line here where we said with OBJ actor add the ID of the actor to turn list, we're just going to say, okay, if as long as the state of the actor isn't dead, add it, otherwise we're not going to add it. So that prevents any dead actors being added to the list in the future. That's going to be it for the step event of OBJ test. If we go into the draw event, this is where we're going to draw our stuff. So let me just minimize and we'll go from there. Okay, so in the draw event of OBJ test, draw cell and then battle unit. So this is where we're going to be drawing the dead animation. So the first thing we want to do, we don't want to draw actors if they're dead. So that's what this check is for. So all we've done is we've encircled this code that we had before inside this check here. Otherwise, if they are dead, then we want to do this as long as they have a sprite index, which will be the death animation. Then just draw the sprite, and we're going to be using the actors image index for that as well. A simple way to do it. And that's it. This is what draws the death animation. And then last of all, we've got a new region here. Just before we draw the cursor, we're going to draw the anim stat animation. So we're going to get a variable called anim from anim grid. Most of the time it's going to equal no one, but if it doesn't and anim is active, so it's ready for its animation to be drawn, we're going to use the FNT editor font. This block is for drawing numbers that rise. So we're going to either have blue or red, or if the value is 0, then it's going to be black. But most of the time we'll have blue for positive values, i.e., healing, or red for negative values, so you're taking damage. We don't want to draw the minus sign for negative values, so this might look a bit complicated, but all we're doing here, well, this whole line is going to draw the number. We are adding, or sorry, we're minusing the height of our anim stats object to y. This is what makes it rise, because height increases every step, if you remember. And then col is going to be either blue or red, usually, and then white is going to be, so we're going to have red at the top, red or blue at the top, and white at the bottom. That's what this is going to draw. This stuff here, so value is going to be a string because we're pulling it from a grid. So we want to turn it into a real number so we can get the absolute value of it. If it's a negative number, it's like -5, that will turn it into a 5. And because we're drawing it as text, we want to convert it back into a string. So that's what this is about. We get a string, turn it into a real, get the absolute value of the real, then turn that back into a string. So yeah. Otherwise, we want to display the XP or level gain. So get the characters level to display that, get the characters XP to display that. These are being updated inside OBJ anim stats, if you remember, and just draw it here. So that's it. If we run the game, let's do a normal attack first. So let's move to this guy, the knight, who has a damage animation. Let's use our sword. So we see the number rise, and because we are multiplying the value by 100, he dies. That's why he showed the death animation. And we saw the actor gain XP as well. If we go back to that area of the map, we try and move, we can move into that square where the dead actor was, because we removed the actor from the actor grid. Let's use this guy. What we're going to do, we're going to kill all 3 of these people to make sure there's no crashes or anything. So we'll use fire all, cast it on this guy. That's 1 death. That's 2 death, and then he killed himself as well. There we go, and it just goes back to the next actor. If we skip turns, then it's only these 4 people that get selected. Awesome, so it was a bit of a quick video this time. Hopefully I've explained everything. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. But apart from that, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye for now.